Nellie McClung was born on October 20th, 1873, on a farm near Chatsworth, Ontario. She lived for almost 78 years and passed away on September 1st, 1951. Her name is remembered as a courageous woman who fought for equal rights. Nellie was the youngest of 6 children. As a child, she liked listening to stories and making people laugh. When Nellie was 7 years old, her family decided to sell their farm and move west to Souris Valley, Manitoba. They sailed across the Georgian Bay and took a train to Winnipeg. They then suffered from walking 300 kilometers by foot to get to their new house.
Are we there yet?
As a young girl, she would always try to help her family with farm work. She started school at 10 and became an 8th grade teacher at 16. She did not like that she couldn't do many things because she was a girl, such as playing sports, so she thought if she became a teacher, she would be more powerful.
Mom, I'm off to play sports.
Nellie, girls don't play sports and don't show your legs.
But that's my favorite.
Sometimes she would play sports with her students, which some parents found a bit odd since she was a female teacher. Nellie moved several times in her life. However, she was always in Canada. Women were not allowed to do many things in Canada at the time, which is why the setting was important, though she would have still fought for what she believed in wherever she was. She would have probably still been known for her writing if she lived somewhere where women had the same rights as men. Nellie started to pay more attention to politics when she moved to Edmonton in 1915. Also, in 1935, she moved to Victoria and soon became governor of the CBC. As you all know by now, Nellie really enjoyed playing sports. She also really wanted to vote as a child.
I cannot wait until I'm old enough to vote.
Nellie, girls don't vote. At first, she didn't want to start school.
But Mom, I don't want to start school.
But eventually, her love for politics and reading made her want to become a teacher. Her writing was influenced by Ella Cora Hind, who was a writer that wrote about women's rights. Nellie was a very independent woman who worked hard for what she believed in. If she did not think something was fair, she would try her hardest to change it. She started to really like politics at the age of 42. Speaking of politics, an interesting fact is that Nellie created 2 organizations, the Federated Women's Institute of Canada and the Winnipeg Political Equality League. Of course, as we all know, she was a very successful writer. She started to write when she moved into James and Annie McClung's house. Another fact is that she actually married James's brother, Wesley McClung, in 1896 and also gave up her teaching. Nellie accomplished many things in her life. Her first book, Sowing Seeds, published in 1908, sold over 100,000 copies. Nellie was a member of the Legislative Assembly of Alberta and, amazingly, she was the 3rd woman to ever be elected as a member of a provincial assembly in Canada. She also became a leader in the CBC. And finally, at the League of Nations, she represented her country, Canada. She accomplished so much, which is why today many Canadians remember her as an astonishing woman. Nellie worked hard to change people's thoughts on women's rights, although it was quite challenging. In 1914, Nellie got many women to help her protest for women's rights. She also wrote a speech, but the Premier, Sir Rodwin Roblin, didn't change anything. A couple days later, Nellie returned, but this time with a play. The play was about letting men vote, and Nellie was pretending to be the Premier. People thought the play was funny, and it changed their minds. In 1940, 11 years before Nellie passed away, she suffered a dreadful heart attack. Fortunately, she survived, though she left Ottawa to go back to her family. She was in Ottawa for a CBC Board of Governors meeting. In 1944, there was also a terrible tragedy. Nellie's son, Jack, had committed suicide, and she was completely devastated. Nellie and Wes celebrated their 50th anniversary in 1946. Finally, on September 1st, 1951, Nellie passed away at her home in Victoria, British Columbia. Her grave reads "Loved and Remembered," and she was buried at the Royal Oak Burial Park in Saanich, BC.
I chose to make a play because I thought if people were to actually see how unfair things are, maybe they would think twice and change their minds. And of course we made it funny so it would grab people's attention. And I quit teaching because at the time I was really into writing and I really wanted to start a career in writing, and of course I did. And I was also a wife at that time and a soon-to-be mother, so I wanted to spend time with my children and my husband, and I don't think I was very capable of teaching at the time, so yeah, I had to quit.